Hey guys, just wanted to come on here and do a follow-up video about validation of feelings and holding space in that way. So I'll link the previous video I made in the description below, but basically uh, there's some good feedback I'd like to address for it and just clarify some things, right? So this format definitely is a little quote unnatural compared to just having it kind of organically unfold. So there is some getting used to, much like the rest of authentic relating. And when you really express like what's on your heart, right? That is probably not a mode most people exist in, and to be able to basically intellectualize what's happening in the inner landscape in order to genuinely connect with others. But it is a skill, and using that muscle will grow it. And so even now, it's not always what I naturally do, right? Especially in the heat of the moment, uh, I might not even realize, oh, this is a situation where that applies, right? So yeah, one, it's not uh, the default blueprint for most humans, and it takes some time getting used to, and to even being able to pause and realize, oh, I can do that right now, and I want to. And to, for me, right, even right after making that video, I realized I had a situation with a friend where I didn't do that, right? And I started being defensive instead of just really holding their feelings first. So it's not easy, but it's very fruitful when it's really genuine. So yeah, there's tons of cases where it really feels like, oh, like if I explain my end of the situation, that will diffuse everything and there won't be this misunderstanding, right? Which is totally true, but the original feelings happened, right? And that's the focus, and that's what we're primarily addressing. And yeah, even for myself, right? In some cases where it's very heated, I'm like, oh, if I explain what was actually happening, maybe there's some understanding and change and shift there, which is totally true. But you can always still apologize for your contribution to whatever pain someone else experienced initially, right? Even if your later explanation will clarify things and change how they feel about it looking back. Like the damage has been done. Um, uh, yeah, the other part of this is I do want this to be kind of like a freestyle flow sort of thing, but at the same time educational. So in my head, making it this freestyle flow makes it more authentic, but I'll I'll see how that really fits in with this sort of video format. Uh, yeah, but anyway, this point again is really big to hold those feelings as basically sacred information, regardless of if you have additional information that would change someone's perspective, right? So one friend told me like, hey, what would happen if in the case of the example I provided in the first video, the second person did not want to apologize uh, for their actions, right? Or they didn't want that new expectation. Um, and the example is uh, one person was disappointed and hurt that the other person didn't say bye to them at an event. Uh, so, right, in this case, you can still apologize that you hurt them because you did, uh, and you can still say, I'm sorry that my actions hurt you. They, I could see how it might hurt you. And I also don't want that sort of expectation on me. I'm not going to be able to say bye in the future. And I hope that doesn't, continue to harm you. So basically, it still acknowledges the hurt feelings and your part in those hurt feelings, but it doesn't mean you're sorry that you happen to do the exact actions. Um, you happen to do those actions. How do I say this? You're sorry the feelings are hurt, right? But you're also not able to change those actions going into the future. So at least there's an update that that's what's to be expected and what that actually means and the intentionality behind it, which is not to harm. So it is nuanced. Another point to consider is to really acknowledge the hurt, right? I'm sorry I hurt you rather than I'm sorry I made you feel that way. It could be both. It's quite a subtle difference, but it's just acknowledging that your actions hurt someone is a bit more direct, right? It's a bit more taking ownership and accountability. The other thing is, regardless of what happens, this is some level of information about this person's internal state, whether they can even authentically relate like this, or if they're interested, uh, if they're able to share their heart on their sleeve. We can intuit their emotional maturity levels and how real you can get with them, right? And if, yeah, you can keep developing something deeper like this with them. And basically, the emphasis is on feelings are always safe to share. And you'd hope that for anything. Another friend commented that he felt actually a little defensive hearing this way of being, right? And I'd want to implore you guys to feel into what about it makes you feel defensive. Like, is it asking for too much? And is that actually coming from your heart or somewhere else? Where if it's some sort of protective mechanism where you don't feel like you deserve that treatment, and so you don't want to do that for others. Yeah, like what exactly is that? Right? Because this is a new way of being and existing and relating, but why can't we have nice things? Another point is to try and keep the feelings you're sharing pure, so as to not confuse feelings with judgment, or you might end up influencing the other person to be more defensive than intended, right? So maybe I feel uncared for is not quite as accurate a feeling as, say, I don't feel comfortable, right? Like, and even instead of I don't feel safe, you might say, yeah, I don't feel comfortable or secure, which might have like a more precise connotation. So, and I feel uncared for might be a little more on the judgment spectrum. And of course, you can share all this. It's totally valid to share your real-time experience of like, oh, I don't know what the exact word is, but what I'm reaching for right now is maybe uncared for, or maybe something more precise, right? Maybe just more disappointed or sad or secure. And all in all, this is also a practice to let go of expectations for the outcome, right? Anything can happen as you share your feelings, and you'd hope that they can hold those feelings, and whatever happens after that is up in the air. But yeah, if you hold on to a certain outcome, that may also lead to disappointment. This is part of the repair process, right? In any sort of real dynamic, there's going to be conflict, there's going to be rupture, and there's going to be repair. And this is the beginning of that repair process. Despite the initial unnaturalness, this is what moving towards ask versus assume culture is like, where there's a directness and clarity, and so a deepening trust that you will name your inner experience with people, and they'll actually be able to really know you, and over time develop this sigh of relief that you are really sharing your heart in all cases, not just the beautiful moments, but across the board, right? And so when you do have those moments of silence or whatever you're doing, there's just a trust that will inherently deepen because there's no gap in understanding each other. It truly is safe versus appearing safe. And this is also related to basically having, this is related to talking about what's actually going on up front, right? Like real-time updates and having that live action, which is where aliveness is and the unknown. And regardless, even if you hold on to that energy of like, okay, I do feel a little hurt and disappointed, but it's okay. Like, yes, pick your battles, but there is this sort of conservation of energy per se, right? So you can choose your battles, and maybe this is not the battle you want to pick, but it's good information regardless. So now you know if this person can get real with you on matters that are more important, right? And that damage has been done to you, right? The damage has been done to the connection, whether the other person knows about it or not, because you feel it and you're half the connection at least, right? So you keeping it to yourself doesn't really help anyone. Like that's still there, right? And so with that conservation of energy, either you hold onto the damage or you bring it up with that other person so you guys can both look at it at the same time and repair it, right? So either way, that that energy is already there. And you'll see if you connect on values much sooner. Eventually, you'll learn to see that sharing feelings is a cue to feel into someone's feelings and really empathize with them, right? And once that energy is there, that damage is there, it can bring people closer or just more data and really understanding what this dynamic is. Okay. Hopefully these points were helpful. I'll try to summarize them below. Thanks.